You want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You can't handle the truth!
Well, we're giving you the Michigan Sports Truth, the show that is honest, reveals the facts, truth, and statistics, and does not mess around. Follow me, Taylor Phillips, on Twitter at DT2Phillips. Email me at TaylorGatorPhillips14@yahoo.com. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter at EdSmith313, and go to our website at MichiganSportsTruth.com. Also like our Facebook page, The Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker, and join our group with the exact same name. The Michigan Sports Truth podcast is also available on iHeartRadio and SoundCloud. Also a subsidiary of Sports Radio Detroit, thus available on iTunes and Podbean. The views expressed by the host of this podcast are not opinion-based or for entertainment purposes. They are actually facts and truth, no matter if other people like it or not. It is the Michigan Sports Truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
Hey there, Michigan sports fanatics, and welcome to episode 230 of the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker, the Week in Review. The football in the Mitten preview, rather. I'm Taylor Phillips with my co-host, Ed Smith. Thanks so much for being on here with me, Ed. How are you?
Quite fine, Taylor. I will say a little bit antsy knowing the impending showdown we're going to be witnessing in the big house this Saturday. Not that the fact that the Tigers just love stringing me along and teasing me as much as possible, which would inevitably lead to heartbreak and anger. But we'll see. We'll see how this weekend goes. Of course, we'll talk about the Tigers more on Tuesday.
Well, definitely, yep. Plus the Red Wings as well. But this is week 5 of the college football regular season in 2016 and week 4 of the NFL regular season the same year. But let's start off with college football.
Touchdown, Michigan!
The 4th-ranked Michigan Wolverines play their 5th straight home game this season to kick off the 2016 regular season against the now 8th-ranked Wisconsin Badgers. Both teams are undefeated, of course, but Michigan's 4 wins to begin the regular season were so easy, they weren't even tested yet. They will be this Saturday when they take on a top 10 team in the Badgers at the Big House, Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor. The Wolverines have lost 11 straight games against top 10 foes, which is still a disadvantage, but with Jim Harbaugh on their side, that maybe they're just getting warmed up. But their offense has to be very careful with this Badgers feisty defense. That the Badgers showed how feisty their defense was against Michigan State last Saturday, and the spread is 11 points.
Yeah, while you're on the topic on the Wisconsin defense being very optimistic, Taylor, they did have 4 turnovers, which led to, I believe, 13 or 21 points. Either way, getting the 4 turnovers that they had against Michigan State last week was a big factor in their pounding almost rather easy 36 victory over the Spartans. So that's one key that Michigan has to avoid or needs to use to their advantage for this game. Avoid the turnovers. Try to keep Wisconsin out of it as short of advantageous field positions as possible. But like I mentioned before, shorten up the turnovers, you will better your chances of trying to pull this one out.
Yeah, definitely. Michigan racked up so many points against those easy teams, but I highly doubt that they're going to score as many points against Wisconsin's defense. The Badgers, that's the biggest example of why Wisconsin is now ranked 8th. They were ranked 11th the week before they played at Michigan State, and they took it to Tyler Conner and the Spartans offense, but now they're going to face even a little bit of a bigger task when they take on Wilton Spate, J.U. Chesson, Jake Butt, and Jordan Lewis, etc.
Yeah, and that actually leads to another key point that I had concerning this game, which was, I guess, I'm trying to be a little bit more creative with some of my keys as we go along here. So the key for this one is to walk the line, as in Michigan, and we'll be looking, they're going to have to find a way to win the advantageous battles on both offense and defense with the lines. Offensively, in terms of the obvious, they got to run the football, set up the run game, but most importantly, protect their quarterback, because Wisconsin, they do have some good studs on defense, most notably T.J. Watt, the younger brother of all NFL absolute, some would say the best defensive player in the game today, J.J. Watt. For those who may not know, J.J. actually played at Wisconsin during his college years, and now his younger brother T.J. is following suit, following in his big brother's footsteps quite well. So, as one defensive player that the Wolverines will have to look out, as well as Beagle as well, another stud senior. So that's two guys on the defense that live near and around that line, and Michigan will have to contend with, at the very least, protecting Spate, let alone setting up the running game. As to how they can achieve that, well, they got to utilize some of the plays and not per se, but rather some of the plays that got them along in previous games, whether it be using jet sweeps with Jehu Chesson or Chris Evans, not Captain America, but still a true freshman who has amazing blazing speed, as well as another true freshman, number 13, Eddie McDoom. And I'll admit, part of me wanted to say that because I like saying his name. So McDoom and Evans will be crucial in terms of not just creativity with their offensive play calling, but also setting things up, using their speed along the edges, so that eventually, once you wear down the big uglies up front for Wisconsin, you can pound them up the middle with Smith, with Tyasik, and also with Karan Higdon, who has become a bit of a valuable, especially now with the entry to Drake Johnson, and new weapon for this Michigan offense to use. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised on the majority of running plays, since he has a little bit more speed than Smith, but also has similar in terms of that ability to truck through hits and get you yards after contact. Expect to see him a little bit more on running plays, while of course Smith gets his heavy handful of handoffs. But Smith and Higdon and Isaac will be key and crucial, as well as, like I mentioned before, using Chesson on jet sweeps to get him out in space with his speed, especially with McDoom and Evans as well. A little bit of bubble screens, wide receiver screens, that sort of thing. Use your speed along the edge. That is your advantage up against this Wisconsin defense. Tire them up around the edges, out those guys chasing you all day, and then later on in the game, when you needed them most, pound up the middle. That's going to be one key for them that's going to help them offensively.
So yeah, this Michigan's powerful offense versus Wisconsin's powerful defense, it's going to be a heck of a showdown. When we see the opening coin toss, it'll depend on who wins the coin toss and whether they'll defer or receive. If Wisconsin wins the opening coin toss, they'll probably defer their choice of the second half. But if Michigan wins the coin toss, then they might want to consider receiving, because they might want to test out the Wisconsin Badgers defense firsthand.
More thing about this, knowing how much Harbaugh loves to put his defense out on the field first, which I actually don't mind. Plus, like I mentioned, if you defer, you automatically get that second half kickoff. So I would say put the defense out first. See if your defensive line can trump their O-line. Now, granted, it's going to be the best offensive line that they have faced thus far this year, maybe even all year, which is a staple that's come to be expected at Wisconsin. Paul Chryst, who I guess you could say was a disciple at the Church of Barry Alvarez, has followed his blueprint to an absolute T. Loves running, loves grounding and pounding, loves running the ball, loves using his offensive linemen to move it around. I guess you could say, use man ball. And Wisconsin is man ball you. Freddie Hoke tried that. It failed. Harbaugh's trying to establish it here, and has some success here and there. But man ball you is we want to see a better, perfect execution of that, you look at Wisconsin. So they're going to be looking to do that. Essentially, they are a bigger yet slower version of what Michigan's offense is at the moment. So it wouldn't be so much of it's not so going to be so much of a new look for Michigan's defense to look at, but still, it's something that they need to take care of because Wisconsin, they have no, it's not like they have scrubs on offense. They have a good quarterback, even though he's a freshman. And Hornibrook, he showed some good poise under pressure last week, made a couple of good, crucial key third down conversions using, I guess you could say he's not what you call those type of players like what we saw in Sifu Liafu for Colorado a couple weeks ago. He's not that. He's going to be more so close to your prototypical pro-style quarterback, which will give him an opportunity if you're Don Brown to use your blitz packages more and more to apply that pressure, knowing he's not going to break out of the pocket and run, pick up a 20-yard scoop and scramble or whatever. But still, it will put your secondary have them be a little bit more exposed. Now, granted, you do have a good, solid, senior wideout in Wheelwright, but he's going to be going up most likely against Jordan Lewis. So that means Stribling, the other senior, he's going to be targeted a lot. You saw that last week against Penn State. Stribling, number 8, he's going to get targeted. I believe the same thing will happen for this week as well. So Stribling better be prepared. I thought he handled himself well, but he's going to get a big test, especially now that you've lost Jeremy Clark for the season due to injury. Luckily, though, Michigan's got an absolute stout beast monster of a defensive line. Chris Wormley, Hurst, Glasgow, Taco Charlton, and of course even the freshman sensation, Rashawn Gary. He can be a bit of a handful at times as well. So add in that and the fact that you have Jabril Peppers coming in on certain blitz packages, as well as being practically everywhere on the field, offense, defense, and special teams. You would think this would be a good test to put your defense on the field first, see what they can do for you. So that'd be one key matchup I'd like to see as early as often, see how much it will set the tone for the rest of the game.
I love it!
Yeah, and that's another key matchup, Michigan's defense versus Wisconsin's offense. In addition to the matchup between Michigan's offense and Wisconsin's defense, now for the special teams, Jabril Peppers is in there too, but Wisconsin.
If Wisconsin's smart, they should stay the hell away from Peppers.
Yep, that's true.
That's what it comes down to on that end. But like you mentioned, going back to what you said about Wisconsin's defense versus Michigan's offense, Wisconsin, they're going to look to stack and load that box up with 8, maybe even 9 guys if possible, try to stuff the run of Michigan, essentially forcing you, essentially daring Wilton Speight, hey, try to beat us. This will be essentially, what we wanted to see Jake Rudock, how he progressed last year through each week. This is one of those tests that you're going to see this year, especially now for Speight. So he showed some good promise a little bit, but this is a far different defense he'll be facing. Will he be able to make good reads? Will he be able to make solid audibles at opportune times and moments? And most importantly, can he avoid the mistakes? Now, you can get away with making those type of mistakes against teams like Penn State or Colorado, or even, especially even against teams like Hawaii or UCF. Was it UCF or USF? USF, excuse me. But against a team like Wisconsin, it will kill you. It will murder you. You don't believe me? Ask LSU, or better yet, ask Michigan State. So, my keys for this is going to be simple: walk the line, control the war in the trenches on both lines, both offensively and defensively. You got to have some faith in Wilton Speight. So that's another key, faith in Speight. See if, knowing full well Wisconsin's defense is going to be daring him to make throws that he has to make, knowing that they're going to stuff the box and stop the run, and without making turnovers. And then, like I mentioned, to give it a take-it factor, control the turnover battle, and also paging Dr. Peppers. You got to use Jabril Peppers as much as you can, not just the defense and special teams, but also, if need be, on offense. A whole lot of plays, similar to what you did late last year in big games against Michigan State and Ohio State. Use him, even if it means being as a decoy. You saw how it worked last week against Penn State. That led to a big breakoff run for Devion Smith. So I expect to see the same being used more expansionally. I can't believe that's not a word. more expansive with their use of peppers in this approach.
I'd have to agree. Michigan's offensive line had better beware of Wisconsin's 8 or 9 man defensive front. That is like a whole lot of extra on that defensive front. It's like forming a very thick wall against an offensive line.
It's a lot of meat and potatoes, that's for sure. And Wisconsin is a meat and potato school.
Oh, man!
Well, kickoff is at 3:30. That's going to be on ABC. So all the Michigan Wolverine fans are amped up and they can't wait. Michigan's got their first test ahead of them after having 4 easy wins under their belts.
Yeah, and in some instances, it'll probably be their only test until most likely the game against Ohio State, because Michigan State, what they let you and the fact that they almost blew a lead against Notre Dame team that got lit up by Texas in week 1, and then lost last week to, of all teams, Duke, not the basketball team, the football team. Michigan State is looking more and more vulnerable by the week. So between that and factor in Iowa, for God's sakes, they lost to North Dakota State. Those are 2 teams, really, when you look at it. Michigan, if things keep going the way they go, Michigan should have no problem with them, even if they are on the road. So really, Michigan, they have 2 big tests this year: this game and Ohio State. We'll see how they handle them.
And we're going to get to Michigan State in just a little while, but first, my Central Michigan Chippewas. We got to go through this whole list in chronological order.
Touchdown, Central Michigan!
It's rivalry week at Kelly Short Stadium as the Chippewas welcome in the Western Michigan Broncos, their arch rivals, into Kelly Short Stadium. Kickoff is not until 7 o'clock, and it's actually going to be televised on the CBS Sports Network. The Chips are no longer undefeated, of course, after their 49-35 loss at the Virginia Cavaliers, who are winless going into that game last week. For the Broncos, they're still undefeated after their win over Georgia Southern at home in Kalamazoo. So, as far as CMU and WMU matching up is concerned, the most important matchup in this game is in the quarterback department. Cooper Rush, 92 out of 147 completed passes passing attempts for 1,359 passing yards.
Are you kidding me with this?
13 touchdown completions and 4 interceptions. That's racking up a ton of numbers. Versus Zach Terrell of Western, 68 of 98 for 893 passing yards and 8 touchdown completions, but no interceptions. That's even better than the 4 that Cooper has. The spread is 4 points, but penning the numbers on how many passes Cooper Rush and Zach Terrell have thrown, the Broncos apparently like to go with the run game more, whereas CMU's strength is the passing department, but whereas their running department is still not very good. See, in CMU's the receiving department, they got Jesse Kroll and Corey Willis. But Devin Spalding is a running back, but he's been doing it all for CMU, but the entire running back squad kind of isn't doing much, if any. That's the one thing that I like to see, that I want to see CMU improve on.
You want to see a better running game to take the pressure off of Cooper.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So again, the spread is 4 points. Oh, that's right. We forgot the prediction for Michigan and Wisconsin. I believe Michigan is going to score like close to 30 points, whereas Wisconsin probably a little over 20 points. I'm thinking 29-21 Michigan. How about you?
Well, the spread at the moment, the spread says Michigan is favored by 11 with the over under 45. Seeing how Wisconsin has performed as the underdog this season, I'm not sleeping on them at all. So my score for this one is I'm picking Michigan to win. I still think they're a much better team. They'll be the best team that probably Wisconsin will have faced all year, all season. You know, either them or Ohio State, which conveniently they'll face next week. So between that and the fact that it's in Ann Arbor, I will say Michigan wins. It'll be a close one, probably a nail biter. But I say Michigan gets it done 28-24.
All right, by a little more than a field goal. Not quite as tense of a nail biter as somewhere within a field goal, but still
it's going to come down.
Still a one-score game, nonetheless.
Yeah, it's going to come down to your defense making one key stop or one big key play. So with a score like that, usually some guys on defense step up and make something happen.
Mm-hmm.
And don't factor out that special teams, because Michigan special teams have had quite an impressive showcase throughout the first 4 weeks, whether it be getting pressure, getting blocks, and of course, like we've seen with the returns of Jabril Peppers.
Yeah, especially Jabril Peppers in large part. Now my prediction for the CMU Western game at Kelly Short Stadium. This is going to be a much tighter nail biter than your prediction of Michigan and Wisconsin just about a minute ago. I'm gonna pick CMU to win 39-38. Very, very tense.
1 point. Wow.
Oh, man.
My prediction is it's going to be close. Not as close as yours, because I mean, you can't get closer to 1 point. But I think it's going to be a quarterback showcase. I think CMU will take care of the ball much better. But still, it'll be an offensive display, and I think CMU will win. You know what? I'm going to buck the system here. I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going to say Western Michigan gets the victory here, 34-31.
Oh, okay.
Spice things up. Why not?
Yep. Okay.
No offense, Taylor. No offense.
That's fine. None taken. And speaking of MAC action, may I make a quick note? Eastern Michigan is at Bowling Green Saturday at 3. The Eagles and Falcons. Eagles are 3-1. The Falcons 1-3. But
an expected victory for Eastern, but then again, we thought the same thing for Central last week, and look what turned out. So you never know.
Wow. Yep. But we must get back to the Big Ten football conference here.
Touchdown, MSU!
Speaking of Michigan State, like we mentioned before, they lost 30-6 to Wisconsin at home, which brings them down to 2-1 overall with their bye week. 2-1. Yeah, 2-1 in the Big Ten, dropping them to 17th overall in the nation. 0-1 in the Big Ten. And now they travel to Bloomington, Indiana, and play the Hoosiers at 8 on BTN. Indiana is 2-1 overall as well, except they haven't even started Big Ten play yet until this upcoming Saturday. Well, the Spartans. What do you know? What can we say? They need to recover from their 30-6 loss at home to Wisconsin and learn from and fix their mistakes and regain their rhythm. Tyler O'Connor, in large part, he needs to improve after throwing 3 interceptions against the Badgers.
Where is your honor, dirtbag? You are an absolute disgrace.
See, this is the other side that makes it a mismatch. Indiana quarterback Richard Legow has racked up 1,200 passing yards.
Are you kidding me with this?
63 out of 101 with 7 touchdown completions and 5 interceptions, the same amount of interception passes that Tyler O'Connor has recorded, and the spread is 7. So the Spartans, all around in all departments, except for special teams, had an ugly game. It's time for them. It's time for them to rebound, or else.
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, then that actually leads into one of the 3 keys that all tie around what, as a whole, Michigan State needs to do. First and foremost, like you said, you need a rebound. Last week was an absolute travesty. It was a disgrace to anyone that's ever seen or witnessed a Michigan State game. So this is a chance for them to lick their wounds and get their head back in the game, because they need to remember, yes, that was a bad loss, but the thing is, the season's not over yet. You still have a chance to, at the very least, win your division. Granted, tough task, because you got both Michigan and Ohio State to deal with, and both are looking pretty damn strong this year, so it'll be a very tall task, but hey, last year was a tall task, and you still got it done. By hook or by crook, you got it done. So who's to say it can't happen this year? My second key, I'm going to use a little bit more pun action here, so to speak. So bear with me. Hopefully, I don't cheese it up. But to pay tribute to current UFC featherweight champion Conor McGregor, who, by the way, just signed a bout agreement with lightweight champ Eddie Alvarez for UFC 205 in Madison Square Garden. Very history-making fight for a history-making part. But enough of that plugging, shameful plugging. As an ode to McGregor's nickname, I'm going to say, to Tyler O'Connor, don't be notorious. As in, please don't stink up the joint like you did last week against Wisconsin. Make better reads. Have better field vision. Don't stare down your receivers too many times. For the love of God, if you see a guy that's open in the end zone, don't throw underneath to a cover tight end that might lead to an interception. That's all I ask for Tyler O'Connor. And for number 3, I think when everybody's counting Michigan State down and out, that's when they always seem to respond best, or when they're not given that much of a chance to begin with. What I like to call, I guess, their secret motivating juice, disrespect, spelled with a K, not a C. It's a little inside joke that Michigan fans use when regarding that they feel that Michigan State gets a little bit too overbearing, how they feel disrespected, how they get the chip on their shoulder. But in this case, it's very relevant because it was a horrible loss on their home turf, so that was even more embarrassing. They're traveling on the road, primetime slot, against a team that, let's be honest, really had Michigan on the ropes last year. Could have easily pulled a big mammoth upset of their own. They got a red-hot quarterback in their own right that's thrown over 1,000 yards already. So a lot of people, I'm sure, are counting, and like you said, the spread of the game was close. I'm sure a lot of people are probably counting out Michigan State as down and out for the season. So tie all those keys together, use that disrespect as that chip on your shoulder to help motivate you, and use this as your personal rebound to make a statement to let you know, hey, we're not going anywhere. There's still a whole lot of season left to go.
Yeah, Michigan State has got to play like they've got nothing to lose, even though it's early. But it's already week 5. This is like the beginning of the second of thirds of this college football regular season. I mean, you just can't take it for granted.
Nope, and not absolutely.
No.
What's your prediction for this one, Taylor?
Got to get on your horse. Oh, man, prediction, that's going to be a tough one. The way Michigan State's defense was playing, not very good. I think Richard Legal can easily take advantage of that, depending how many yards he has racked up. Just barely over 1,000. I think that's going to be the key to the game here. The Hoosiers are probably going to stick to their passing game, which is key against the Spartans' vaunted defense. And for Tyler O'Connor, it's and his offense, it's put up or shut up. I'm going to predict Indiana to pull off the upset, 38-24.
Ooh, well, like I said, going by what I mentioned before, and knowing how Michigan State they like to respond in these type of situations, I expect their defense to perform much better. And let's not forget, the reason why their defense didn't look that impressive is because their quarterback was atrocious and kept putting their defense in horrible spots with turnover after turnover after turnover. So hopefully, if that doesn't transpire so much this week, you will see a much better performance from the MSU defensive unit, particularly their front seven. At the moment, I'm not aware of their injury report, but if they get Riley Bullough back, which really hurt them last week more than a lot of people will discuss, will say, against Wisconsin, having him back this week would be huge. But we just don't know the status. Or at least I do not know his status as of yet. So his game will, in some ways, will be dependent upon the status of Riley Bullough. But even if he doesn't come back, I expect Michigan State's defense to perform well. I expect L.J. Scott to have much better performance on the ground. And even if O'Connor has a couple goof-ups, throws a pick, hopefully no more than 2, I expect Michigan State to come through. And in a close one, I say to get the victory, I will go by a score of... let's go 33-29.
Okay. Keep in mind, Tyler Connor is a senior already.
Yeah. Yep.
So
trust me. His neck is on the line just as much as his team's season is on the line. So if he has another crack performance, his job will be done.
Well, that's true. And thus he won't even be drafted by an NFL team in the near future. Think about that.
I mean, I'm sure people weren't expecting him to be the next Kirk Cousins or the next Connor Cook, but come on, you gotta have a better showcasing what you have so far, especially the fact that you're a senior. But if he has another crappy day, don't be surprised if you see Brian Lewerke as the starter the very next week.
Well,
I don't think D'Antonio's going to let his season go too far out of hand without making drastic change.
Mark D'Antonio is still one of the best coaches in college football history. In college football right now, he can whip the Spartans into shape, and he has done that for the last few years. They won. He got them to win he led them to a Rose Bowl championship. He led them to 3 Big Ten championships. The first one of them without even having to play a Big Ten conference championship game, and the other 2 they were earned against Ohio State and Iowa. So that's the track record that the Spartan fans can remember and need to remember. So there's that. So I may have to change my prediction on this one. I'm going to.
Oh, really?
I'm going to pick Indiana in a close one. I'm going to go 38-35.
Okay.
If Tyler O'Connor actually and his offense actually improves the way we need them to. So with that, that's all the college football that we needed to preview. Now it's time for pro football.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
The Detroit Lions go to Soldier Field and play the winless Chicago Bears. The Bears are 0-3. The Lions 1-2. But Lions have one win under their belt, but they've lost the last two. The Bears, like I just mentioned, 0-3. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL right now, and the Lions need to take advantage of that. Except they have to earn it on the road, and the Lions in the recent past have had their fair share of winning about a few games at Chicago against the Bears at Soldier Field, but the Bears have beaten the Lions in that building before too. But we saw their resiliency in Green Bay last week, trailing 31-3 late in the second quarter. They still fell short. But the Lions, with that resiliency, have a little bit of momentum. Except their defense just didn't give their offense a chance to try to win it in the end.
No, I mean, you could pin that on the excuse that they're down with injuries. They didn't have Ziggy Ansah. They didn't have DeAndre Levy. They didn't have DeAndre Levy's backup, Antoine Williams. But you could still, it doesn't change the fact that their secondary is just flat out bad, and they can't cover a tight end to save their lives. So when you face the best quarterback, possibly the best quarterback in the league, not named Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, something you expect to see a 31-3 ass whipping by halftime. So that's what I expected. That's what it went down. But credit to the Lions offense. They did not quit. Unfortunately, their defense failed them once again, and they failed them when it mattered most.
Yeah, unfortunately, this Lions defense has got to find ways to improve. They still have their defensive coordinator Terrell Austin, but the defense is letting him down. Has been letting him down for the first 3 games, except for that shocking and aggravating loss at home in their home opener in week 2 against the Tennessee Titans of all teams, which was very embarrassing. They held the Titans to 16 points. They could have held them to just 3 had it not been for those 2 touchdowns that the Lions gave up in the fourth quarter. The second one standing to be the game winner, without the requirement of an extra point. But going to the Bears here, Joique Bell, the former Detroit Lions running back, will be the Bears' new running back for the time being because Jeremy Langford, the former Michigan State Spartan running back, is out 4 to 6 weeks, like we mentioned 2 days ago, with his high ankle sprain. The spread is just 3 points, meaning this game will be very, very close.
It's basically a pick'em. Even ESPN has the match predictor currently, as we're recording this. It has Detroit favored at 50.7, Chicago at 48.9 in terms of percentage of who the fans think will win, and both the tie scenario is at a 0.4%. So this is as close to a pick'em as you can possibly get, because I think fans recognize how incredibly crappy both these teams look, especially Chicago.
Oh yeah. Even a mediocre team like the Lions have to take advantage of that if they want to win.
They should, because for goodness sake, some of the numbers speak for themselves. They're how many teams? Right, there's 32 teams in the NFL. Correct, Taylor?
Correct. 32, 4 in each division, 8 divisions. 4 times 8 is 32.
Right. Chicago, they rank 30th in rushing yards per game at 71.7. They're ranked 23rd in passing yards. Now, granted, some of that most has attributed to the fact that Jay Cutler apparently has an injury to his thumb. You don't know whether or not he's going to play this Sunday. But even still, Jay Cutler sucks, and he has sucked for years, so that's no excuse. And in terms of offensive, defensive scoring, defense, they're tied for 23rd, giving up almost 28 points per game, and they rank 30th out of 32 teams in the NFL for offensive scoring with 15 points a game. So, say that the Lions should win this game is a massive understatement. There's the key still. There's still key that they need to get this done. One key, which I think will be helpful, beneficiary for their defense, get more pressure. The defensive line, the way they showed up in the first half against Indy and the first half against Tennessee, that's pretty much the only time this whole season that we've seen them look anywhere near remotely impressive. Now, granted, last week against Green Bay, that was probably due to the fact that I think the game plan for the Packers was knowing how they performed the week before against Minnesota. Rodgers had simply just take a few quick steps, drops, don't drop back so far deep in the pocket, get the ball out quick as possible, and then later on, if need be, use his own brand of athleticism to scramble out, get out of trouble, and use his legs to pick up yards, which he did, especially on that key 3rd down and 8, with about under 3.5 to go, that effectively sealed it. But still, D-line pressure is key because for the Lions, you're either going to be facing Jay Cutler or Brian Hoyer. So if you can't get pressure on those two guys, I don't know what to tell you. As it relates to the defense, another key for me will be next man up because this is a team still dealing with a bevy of injuries, including, most importantly, two of their starting defensive studs. Ziggy Ansah is still out with a high ankle sprain. Unlikely that I see him playing this week. Same thing with DeAndre Levy. He's listed as having a quad injury, but for all honesty, it could be the return of this Peruvian parasite. You don't know. And even a little bit more troubling news: Marvin Jones had an awesome 200-yard-plus game, a couple of touchdowns last week against Green Bay. Now he's been added to the injury report. He was limited in practice with a hamstring injury. So, in many ways, and of course, the addition to Amir Abdullah officially being out for the year with a torn ligament in his foot, it's next man up. So you got to see more to possibly Dwayne Washington, who was primarily more of a kick return guy. He's going to be moved up to the to help with their depth at running back. Same thing with Theo Riddick. He's going to be used more as the primary back like he was last week. Hopefully, he has a better production with running the ball that he did last week as well. Defensively, you're going to see Antoine Williams more than likely come back since he did return to practice this week. So hopefully Williams will be able to play this Sunday. He's going to be desperately needed because that linebacking core is already soft as is. Not to mention, and that was before, so now you factor in losing Levy. You don't know the status of Kyle Van Noy, who seems to be Mr. Glass at this point. You need as much guys as you can get on that defense, and specifically on that linebacking core. So having those guys back would help. Eric Ebron, he did play last week despite his injury problems. I expect him to play this week as well. But as for the other guys that are going to be out for the foreseeable future, it's up to that next man up to establish, hey, I'm up, I'm here. If Bob Quinn wants to follow the Patriot approach, bring that Patriot way to the Lions, look no further, because they are prime king examples of that. For God's sakes, they won 11 games, even when Tom Brady went out with a knee injury. Okay, that was with Matt Castle. Okay, they have an undefeated season so far with Brady suspended, with Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett. Okay, so imagine how good they're going to be when Brady gets back. Anyways, it comes down to next man up. It comes down to D-line pressure. And another big key, my personal key, since I'm such a huge fan of this guy, a strong staff, as in Matthew Stafford needs to have a strong performance. I thought he looked fairly well last week against Green Bay. Yes, he had the interception credited to his stat line, but still, that can be more attributed to that Eric Ebron got out-muscled by a small cornerback, which should have been ruled as a catch, then strip fumble. But either way, I really liked how Stafford has looked this year. If it wasn't for the fact that he had 7 drop passes week 2 against Tennessee, he'd have much better looking completion percentage and whatnot with his season total so far. So I believe in Stafford. I just don't trust the other 52 guys on this team. So for the next man up, if I want to respond back to next man up real briefly, Offensively, Marvin Jones might be limited with that hamstring injury. So, hey, Golden Tate, step back up, young man. Ebron, as much as I despise him, I will admit he, for the most part, does provide a good safety valve for Stafford. Stafford keeps going back to him. He has some trust in him for a reason. So you got to depend on that as begrudgingly as you want to. But those are my keys, as it pertains to how the Lions should go about in this game against the Bears.
Yep. Predictions, I'm going to pick the Lions 27 and the Bears 10. Because the Bears, as you mentioned, are ranked 30th in offense.
Oh, as much as I so want to pick Chicago, because I cannot mention Caldwell. I want to see his sorry ass fired. I'm going to have no choice. I got to go with my head here.
I'm with you.
I say the Lions win. I got to go with the Lions. They're going to win this one and cover. I think Stafford has a very good day. I say he throws 4 TDs at the bare minimum. I say the Lions get this one done, 31-17.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
I hate to say it, but
yeah.
Hey, you play who's on your schedule, and right now the Bears are terrible.
Caldwell's dumb. Yeah.
Are you out of your mind?
So that's our preview for this episode. Now it's time for 5 questions. Are you ready, Ed?
Yep, Taylor. So just let him rip, my friend.
It's time for 5 questions on the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker.
Question number 1. How can the Michigan Wolverines offense get past the Wisconsin Badgers defense?
Well, like I alluded to earlier, you can't just run straight up at us, or at the very least, you can't do it early on. This is a team specifically built to not only perfect that, but also combat that on their own end here. So you're going to see a lot of edge plays, a lot of open space plays where you use, hopefully, your guys that have speed, Chris Evans, the Eddie McDooms, the J.U. Chessons. Hopefully they use their speed and breakability to shed some tackles and create some big yards, big gash plays for you. You still have your safety valve in Jake Budd, and also a new developing safety valve in Grant Perry as well. I believe that's the sophomore receiver, number 9. So you have that. You can use all those sorts of weapons, variables, play calls, and whatnot. And then eventually, over time, once you wear them down, that's when you use that chance to pound up the middle with Smith, with Higdon, and Isaac. Even Khalid Hill, the big, I guess you could say, tight end, H-back. You saw how he was used perfectly in that 4th and goal on the goal line against Penn State. I wouldn't be surprised if he's used in a similar situation this week. Short yard situation, got to get a first down, bring in big number 80.
All right.
Next question.
Question number 2. Who will win the quarterback battle between Central Michigan's Cooper Rush and Western Michigan's Zach Terrell?
Terrell is seen, I think, you go by his numbers of the fact that he has no interceptions yet, fewer touchdowns than Rush. I think he's more closer to the game, and as well as fewer yards. He's more in that game manager role. So essentially, you're going to expect Cooper Rush to produce more. So by that logic, I'm going to say Cooper Rush. By the way, quick piggyback back to question number 1, as well as for what Michigan needs to do offensively. It's simple. Get Jabril Peppers in there. Whether it be decoy or using him as, wildcat or jet sweeps. Get Peppers in there to at least get the thought of that in Wisconsin's defense to sucker them up at the very least for a nice decoy play.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Next question.
Question number 3. Can the Spartans regain at least a little bit of their momentum regardless of the outcome at Indiana?
Well, I think they can do that defensively. Offensively, it's another story. That's why one of my keys was O'Connor, please don't be notorious. Please do not have another bad outing. It's this, the way this game will swing will be very dependent on whether or not Tyler Connor either looked like he did against Notre Dame, or looked like he did last week. So it all comes down to that.
Good point.
Next question.
Question number 4, how does Michigan State's defense get to the Hoosiers quarterback Richard Legow?
If they have Riley Bullock back, that would be a big plus. In terms of defensively, I think you might have to mix them up. Use a good barrage of blitz packages, test them out, see how he responds to pressure. Granted, it's going to put your secondaries out some islands a little bit, but still, that's a chance. That's a risk that you take with that. So I would say dial up the pressure a little bit in key situations, get him out of his comfort zone, see how it goes for you.
Mm-hmm. That's up to Mark D'Antonio and his defensive coordinator to make those decisions and try to form that defensive wall.
Next question.
If Narduzzi was still here, I would be feeling more confident.
Yep.
I will say that.
Mm-hmm. Question number 5, will the Lions' defensive front find ways to stop Joyke Bell? If so, how?
Well, they had some problems stopping, 400-pound wrecking ball Eddie Lacy last week. So even if it is a former teammate, I think Joyke Bell could have potential success against his former team here. So your hope here is he doesn't break off too many big plays. He's not used to essentially kill clock. He can probably get a gash here or there, but if you hold him to under 100, have him around that 75, 80-ish range, that would be considered a moderate a success, a check marked for good in terms of how you did against Joyke.
Yeah, that's a good one. So that's 5 questions, and for all the listeners and fans out there, if you want to answer those questions, just replay the episode and answer them in the comment bank below this episode. That wraps up episode 230 of the Michigan Sports Truth the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker, the football and the Mitten preview. Ed, thanks so much again for your help. I'll talk to you again on episode 231, the weekend review, Tuesday at midnight, when we recap the Tigers' 2016 regular season and analyze 2 Red Wing articles, one from DetroitRedWings.com about Jonathan Erickson's hip injury, which he's had for 4 years now, and the other from Jeff Moss of the Detroit Sports Rag, showing further evidence that Ken Holland is one of the worst NHL general managers today. By the way, the Tigers are now down to a game and a half back of the Baltimore Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays for both spots in the American League Wild Card Division standings, but they may have an extra game on Monday with the Indians because Thursday's game got postponed due to day-long rain.
Yeah, it's, to say the least, it's nut cutting time now for the Tigers. I think they're going to have some help because Baltimore, they'll be facing the Yankees, who I think they're going to be looking to play the role of spoiler. They're more than likely not going to be able to catch up in the wild card hunt.
The Yankees have now been eliminated from wild card contention, as I heard on MLB.com.
Exactly. Yeah, due to the Red Sox clinching the division and among other factors. So basically, the Yankees are going to be looking to play the role of spoiler. Maybe they'll get them up, give them the motivation that they need to dash Baltimore's hopes. And Toronto, they're going to be facing the Red Sox. So between that and the fact that you're facing an absolutely crappy Atlanta Braves team, you should, without question, be in a possible spot. If it comes down to it, be back here on Monday. And if you're facing the Cleveland again, more than likely, you're going to be facing, they'll probably be bringing in the lineup for Major League out there. They'll probably bring in Wild Thing, the pitch, some of the relief innings. Just hide the chalk lines from them. So essentially, if you get to Monday, you have a good shot that you'll probably at the very least get to a game 163, a play-in to get to the play-in. Oh God, how fun would that be? So, between now and Tuesday, it's going to be a lot of interesting storylines. Will the Tiger season be over? Will it be a game 163? Will they be in the playoffs? Will Brad Ausmus have a job? Will I have a brain aneurysm? Tune in to find out.
Well, the question is, will I root for the Tigers to tank every forthcoming year if Ausmus returns? But
another question.
Yeah, but speaking of Indians and Tigers, the makeup game possibly on Monday, My fantasy starting pitching matchup would be Justin Verlander versus Trevor Bauer. I think that's what we should see in that final game. When except the Indians have already clinched the AL Central, so we're likely not going to see that. But
they bring in Fulmer again. Risky, sure, but who knows? Because more than likely, I would rather save Verlander for that game 163 or the wild card game.
Yeah, Verlander pitched a dandy against those Cleveland Indians. The Tigers whooped them 12-0 on Tuesday.
Now, granted, that was against essentially a AAA squad with the amount of reserves they had in that game. So, but even still, if they go roll that same lineup and you put Fulmer out there on Monday, you'll strengthen your chances of having Verlander there for either game 163 or the wild card game. So, I would, one game do or die situation. Who do you want to have that ball in the mound? Justin Verlander, 100% of the time. You saw what he did against Oakland in 2012 in Game 5. You saw what he did throughout the 2013 postseason. So if there's one guy you want on this team to have the ball in their hands, be on that mound, do or die game, win or go home, it's JV. It's must-see JV if it comes down to that.
Yep, unless they just stick with their projected starters like they had earlier this Thursday. Daniel Norris was scheduled to pitch on Thursday when it got rained out. But if they're going to pitch if the Tigers are going to pitch Daniel Norris on Friday, then they may have to consider going back to Justin Verlander. I can check MLB.com real quick. The MLB.com at-bat mobile app on your mobile smartphone. You can download it right now. 7:35 it is Friday's start time. Daniel Norris against Whistler. The Tigers are gonna have to turn to Justin Verlander against the Indians. No starting pitcher for the Tigers yet for Saturday at 7:10. But
well, for now, what I'm looking at on ESPN, it has currently Zimmerman for Friday, Boyd on Saturday, Verlander Sunday. So how about this, right? If you move Norris to today, right, because it is Friday now, put him today, Zimmerman. Actually, when you think about it now, it could put Verlander back into that possible Monday spot. At the very least, so you might be right on that. But still, I would still say try to put Michael Fulmer in there. So Norris today, Zimmerman Saturday, Boyd on Sunday, and if need be, Fulmer for Monday, and then you have Verlander ready, if possible, for either game 163 or the wild card game.
Well, if the Tigers want to make sure they sweep those three games, I would pick Norris, Fulmer, and then Boyd, and then go Verlander on Monday.
Yeah, but like I said, if it gets to that Monday game, there's no way in hell Cleveland, even if the home field advantage in the AL is at stake, they don't want to be here. You saw Indians players. I heard on the news earlier. I think it was on Channel 7. Some teams were abandoning the team bus to take cabs because the weather was so crappy. Really think they want to come back here? No. Mentally, they're already checked out. More likely, you'll see this delay, this postponement actually helps the Tigers because I think, like I said, you're going to be seeing a potential AAA squad again if it gets to that Monday game. So why waste Verlander when you potentially save him for a win-or-go-home situation on the game 163 and or the wild card? So by that logic, I say give Fulmer another shot, put him out there Monday, have JV ready for either Tuesday or Wednesday. If
the Tigers make the playoffs. But you never know. They're a game and a half out, like we mentioned before.
Even if Verlander starts Sunday, I would still have him ready for either Tuesday or Wednesday. Even 2 days rest. That's the faith that I have in JV.
Well, as far as the Orioles-Yankees matchup is concerned, the Yankees are are already eliminated, like I mentioned before. So they have nothing left to contend for except looking forward to next year. So they're going to play their youngsters out there against a do or die team in the Orioles who have nothing to lose. They have the one of the two wild card spots. They want to make sure they hang on to it, and I think the Orioles may take at least 2 out of 3. Is that series in the Bronx?
That's where you got. Yeah, it's in New York. It's in New York, so you gotta be quick. You gotta be careful with that. And also pay attention to that Toronto-Boston series. I'll just say that.
Yeah, the Red Sox have already clinched the AL East, so the Jays are probably going to be hungrier than the Red Sox are. So it's going to come down to the Orioles and the Blue Jays possibly claiming those 2 wild card spots, and the Tigers falling just short, even though they try to come back.
Well, I'm sure that's what you will hope for, because like you said, you want Ausmus gone. Trust me, I agree with you, but I got to look at the realistic approach here that most likely is going to come down to the fact that the Tigers might have a chance to sneak into the playoffs here. So, there are all possibilities here.
Yeah, we never know. It's going to be close. It's going to be really, really close. But I think the Tigers are going to finish a game short. Even with that makeup game against the Indians on Monday, possibly Monday.
Well, if they lose any of these games, it gets Atlanta, mission essentially accomplished. So it'll be devastating. It'll be shameful. It'll be disgraceful. But hey, you'll get your wish.
But we may have a 3-way tie. Then again, we may have a 3-way tie for the first and second wild card spots in the American League between the Jays, O's, and Tigers. Think about that.
So essentially, potential chaos, basically.
Yeah. So
I like chaos every once in a while, so let's root for that.
Yeah. So and they're going to have the same. They're all going to have the same record if it's a 3-way tie. No questions asked. If you look at the standings and do the math, you're going to see for yourself. So that's going to be up to the MLB.com headquarters to determine all the rest of the statistics inside the standings, inside the wild card standings, I may add, and that's they're going to determine which 2 teams are the best in all statistics besides just their records. I think that would be more fair. So what do you think about that concept?
Well, in the case of many tiebreaker scenarios, I'm sure another thing to look at is win percentage and also head-to-head matchups. That helps you out with the tiebreakers. So that settles it right there.
Yeah, I think that's going to be. I think it's going to be up to the headquarters to solve this tiebreaker that 3-way tiebreaker puzzle, and to determine which 2 teams are going to play for the wild card division championship. So with all that, that's finally going to wrap up episode 230 of the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker, the football and the Mitten preview plus the Tigers preview extra. We worked some overtime on that one. But Tuesday at midnight, I'll talk to you then on episode 231, the Week in Review.
Looking forward to it, Taylor. Hopefully I'm still alive by then.
I'm sure you'll be. That's because you have me by your side as always.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, between these football games and the Tigers going down to the wire, it's going to be bad for heart and blood pressure for all sports fans in the state of Michigan this weekend.
Well, just try to hang in there, okay?
I'll try.
Yep. Get some rest, okay?
Gotcha.
Yep. So that's it for episode 230. Before we sign off, I want to remind everyone to share this episode and our entire podcast on social media. Have their friends share that as well, and follow me on Spreaker as Taylor Phillips, online at Spreaker.com, because I want to tell them that the Michigan Sports Truth podcast on Spreaker is in search of local advertising sponsors. If anyone has a business that's interested in sponsoring this program, please email me at taylorgatorphillips14@yahoo.com, or privately message me on Facebook or Twitter. For Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on our podcast, please let us know. Follow us on Twitter at DT2Phillips and at EdSmith313. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.